Today we're going to be talking about using wood ash in the garden. Actually looks a little bit like cookies and cream ice cream. A little drier. A lot drier. Welcome to Next Level Gardening. I'm Brian. In this video, we're going to be talking about wood ash in your garden, what it's for, and the benefits and possible dangers depending on your garden condition. But we're going to go far beyond just wood ash. I'm going to show you how to make DIY biochar. What's that, you ask? Only one of the best amendments you can add to your garden, but it's expensive unless you know how to make it yourself at home. Stick around to the end of the video and I'll show you how to make better biochar at home than you could ever get in the store for a fraction of the cost. But first, at this time of year, your fireplace might be looking like this. All this ash that most people toss in the garbage without even thinking about it. But if you're a gardener, you better think twice. So what kind of ash is recommended? Ash from a fireplace burning logs, ash from a fire pit burning logs, and ash from a wood-fired stove. Those are recommended choices. What about briquettes from barbecues, like the Easy Light briquettes? Well, those mean they have a chemical added to them that make them easy light. Yep, those are questionable. Logs like Duraflame have waxes and other chemicals and compounds that hold them together and make them burn well, so those are not recommended. Now there's a couple things in this ash. You've got the gray stuff that's very, very fine, and you've also got these very lightweight remnants of the wood. Both of these ingredients in ash are very beneficial to your garden, especially when growing food. The NPK of wood ash comes out at 0.13, 3 being potassium or potash. So it's got a very high potash or potassium compared to the other two nutrients. Now this is very important because potash or potassium, the third number, is very beneficial in growing larger, more flavorful fruit. And by fruit, I'm talking about things like tomatoes and zucchini, not necessarily apples and oranges. Now, all that being said, if you have an alkaline soil, this is going to make your soil more alkaline. Now, if you don't know what your pH level is in your soil, you need to test it before adding wood ash. I will leave a link down below in the description for a very simple, easy, and cheap pH tester. As a side note, I do not like the electronic kind. The ones I've used haven't been very reliable. So if you find out you have an acidic soil, wood ash is great for you because not only are you going to get all the benefits that I was talking about directly into the soil, it's actually going to bring your pH into a level that's more neutral, which most of the fruits and vegetables we love really like. One word of warning though, if you have blueberries growing in your garden, they like acid soil. Do not put this anywhere near the blueberries. I would also keep it away from your tomato plants because while they don't like as much acid as blueberries, they do like their soil a little bit on the acidic side, acidic to neutral. But just keep it away from both of those and you should do fine. For those with alkaline soil, add the ash to your compost bin where it will keep the potassium, but the pH will be neutralized. Now on to biochar. Like I said before, it's expensive, but the value it adds to your soil can be immeasurable. But you also have to know, like with wood ash, what type of soil you have and if it's going to be a benefit or a danger. The magic of biochar comes from its surface area. 1 tablespoon of this stuff has the same surface area as a football field. It smells good too. Because microscopically, it's full of millions of nooks and crannies where water, nutrients, and microbial life can take up residence and make your soil the best it can be. Think of it as a huge condominium complex or apartment complex for all of those great beneficials in your soil. And biochar stays in the soil a long time. We're not just talking about one growing season, we're talking about 1,000 years. Have you ever heard of a soil amendment like that? So it only needs to be applied once in 1,000 years if applied correctly. And that means it needs to make up 10% of your plantable soil. That's a lot. If you don't want to add that much now all at once, a light application every 3 to 5 years is sufficient. If you do add all 10% all at one time, just make sure you leave a note for your great grandkids to apply it again. And like I said, biochar is not cheap unless you know how to make it.
The common thermochemical techniques used for biochar production include pyrolysis, hydrothermal carbonization, gasification.
Or you can just buy a bag of this and turn it into a much better and much cheaper version than anything you can find in the store or online. It only takes a few ingredients: this bag of natural lump charcoal, a bottle of molasses, and cold manure like rabbit poop if you have it. And we definitely have plenty of that, don't we? If you don't have rabbit manure, you can use purchased or homemade chicken manure, or cow manure, or even good homemade compost. A note on the charcoal. This can be an even cheaper process by making your own. Google makes it sound complex, but what it really means is that biochar is created in the absence of oxygen. So make a big fire using hardwood. Once it's burning really good, cover it with some type of metal cover or even soil, and let it continue to smolder and burn under there until it's out. When you remove the cover or dig it up, you'll have biochar, or basically what's in this bag. So first we need to break this charcoal into manageable pieces that will be good for mixing into garden soil. You can use anything you've got laying around to do it manually in a bucket. You can also drive over it or trample it between two tarps, or you can toss it into a wood chipper. Whichever way you do it, it's important to wear a dust mask to avoid breathing in the dust, unless you're in a car. Once you've got it broken down into this size chunks, we need to inoculate it. So grab a wheelbarrow or large bucket, put in the pulverized charcoal. Add a generous helping of molasses and manure or compost. I'm adding both. The sugar in the molasses is going to feed the good bacteria in the manure or compost. I'm also adding in some liquid seaweed just as a mineral boost. I've even heard you can pee into it. What? It's just the next step. Dechlorinate the water. Fill it up with dechlorinated water. You can buy a dechlorinator or just leave the water sitting in a bucket for 24 hours and it will naturally dissipate. Now, an even easier way to inoculate your biochar is in the compost bin. Just add it to the bin, wait for the compost to break down, and then add the compost as a mulch in your garden. The biochar needs to be in the compost for 8 to 12 weeks to be properly inoculated or charged. But if you're impatient like me, the first method in the wheelbarrow is the way to do it. You need to let the biochar sit in this mixture for about 3 days to charge up. Then simply add it to your garden beds. Now, if you want to add it once and let your future generations add it again in 1,000 years, you want to add about a quart per square foot. But again, depending on how much bed space you've got, that could be a lot. If you want to add it every few years, just liberally sprinkle it over the bed. Either way, mix it well into the soil. If you have acidic soil, adding biochar will give you all the great benefits we talked about. It's also going to push your pH a little more toward neutral. In pH neutral soils, biochar doesn't seem to have much of an effect on the acidity, but if you have alkaline soil where you already know you have alkaline soil, you're adding sulfur to try to bring it to more acid, definitely do not use biochar in that soil. If you want a rundown of a bunch of other DIY fertilizer you can make at home, click on this video right here, and don't forget to subscribe right here before you leave. I'll see you next time.